Hello and welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Wendy Yi, and I want to get you excited about the Dice Tower library today, as well as maybe inspire you to paint some of your own miniatures. So today I'm going to be discussing Return to Dark Tower. This is something I've spent months on this year working on. It starts with just a few basic miniatures, just your players each have an original miniature, but then if you've expanded out like Tom has, it has over 60 miniatures, so it's pretty exciting. Before we talk about individual miniatures though, I want to talk about this tower right here. The doors on this tower are just plain black. The outside of it lights up. But one of the things that Tom requested actually was for me to make this tower look a little bit nicer and to bring out some of the detail. So what I did here with these doors is I took them off, I went ahead and I masking taped the outside of them, and then I dry brushed some metallic over the top. I did that just to bring out that detail, to make it look like actual chains and to throw a little bit of metallicness to it. And then I went ahead and I put a matte top coat over the top so that we still see that there's a little bit of that metallic flavor, but it's not super shiny because I didn't want a really shiny tower. And because I had the masking tape on the side, it still slips in really nicely. It doesn't get in the way of anything. It doesn't gum anything up. And you can still see all the bright, cool lights through the doors. Speaking of a matte top coat over metallic finish, I really like the effect that it creates. So we have this little guy here. This is one of the bosses that you can fight. And he has a golden sash across his chest as well as some golden coins underneath him. And golden fabric does not shine as much as golden coins. So what I did is I went ahead and I painted the whole miniature. I used a very gold metallic paint for his clothing as well as the coins. Then I matte sprayed it all, which made everything a lot less shiny. But I still wanted those coins to pop, and I wanted them to be really looking like coins because coins are extremely shiny. And so I went back over the top with some extra metallic gold just to bring those out a little bit more, so you have that more gentle metallic for the sash and the brighter pop and shine for the coins. And I think that that's a very cool effect. And because I put that metallic over the top of a top coat with metallic underneath, if it rubs off or if there's any damage to the miniature with that particular stuff, it'll still have that matte metallic underneath, which will still let it tie in and it won't look like it's messed up. So it protects it, but it still gives it some good shine. Next, I want to talk about Ash Rider and Utuku the Ice Herald. These both have pictures on the card that don't match the miniature to some extent. And what it is these glow. And so I can't actually add light directly to these miniatures, so I have to do a little bit of object source lighting, which is from them internally or from the top of them, as well as just making some decisions. What I wanted to do with this Ash Rider guy right here is I wanted to actually incorporate all the colors that are in the picture of his fire while still giving a little bit of that glow effect. And so what I did is I layered on red and orange and yellow, white, always having white at the top because that's the brightest, lightest color. And I went through that one time and I didn't love it. And so you know what? I just kept layering on colors, and so they mixed and they blended and they added a lot of cool effects. And because I was using a dry brush technique, that dark of his skin was still underneath, and so it creates a cool contrast between that bright highlight as well as the dark of underneath him. I also threw a little dry brushing around the edges of his body so that you could see some light reflecting on him, because all the fire on his back is obviously reflecting onto his appendages. But underneath, I kept it so that it would be very dark. And so I like the end product of what happened. It doesn't look like exactly like the picture, but you can definitely tell that this guy's cool and he's on fire. Now, Tuku the Ice Herald right here, he actually, instead of having the light on his back, he has it coming out of these scales in his skin, as well as this fireball right here. So I used a little bit of dry brushing on his shoulder to make that light shine on his shoulder, as well as I put some on his chest just to kind of make it look like it's shining up. Usually that underside of the chest is a very dark part of a miniature because the light is not shining directly on that. That's more shadowed. So putting that there kind of created that fun effect. And then for his eyes, I actually watered down white so that I could drop it in there and it could dry in the creases because his eyes needed a different effect. So dry brushing wouldn't have done what I wanted it to do there. The next one that I want to talk about, and actually the last one, is the Grave Maw. I know there's tons of miniatures. Like I said, there's over 60, so There's a bajillion we could look at, but this is another one that really didn't match the picture. This was actually probably the hardest one for me, to take what was in the picture and to put it on a miniature. There's an extra head on this guy, there's different coloring, there's a base body, there's all of that. And so I had to make choices as to how I wanted to color this head. In the picture, he's very blotchy. He's got a lot of different colors going on. So what I did is I took a dark contrast, whatever their dark brown version is, and I just put it over everything. And then I decided I was going to work up from there. And so I actually left like the tail and the scales and stuff. I just left that all the dark because I wanted it to be more shadowed. And then I just started putting colors. I thought, hey, you know, he's got this kind of greenish tan going on, this kind of khaki color. So I threw some khaki color on his head, and then I wanted a little bit more teal because there's a little bit more green back there. I threw on some teal. And then around his body, and actually on side of the shinier parts of his body, I decided to throw in a little bit extra to create that rounded effect, a little bit of lighting, and just, I don't know, I thought it looked cool. It's funny because on the front here, I actually really like what happened. While that really dark contrast was on, it was still a little bit tacky, and I thought that it was completely dried, and so I had started dry brushing over the top of it a little bit of that same khaki tan color I put on the head, but instead it started lifting off the contrast, and it threw in a little bit of that tan, and I actually super liked the effect that it caused on accident. We all make mistakes, but it created a little bit of lightness right here on his chest, and it lightened it up and it blended it really nicely. So that was an accident that I'm glad happened. So those are some of the coolest miniatures that I painted. If you come to one of our conventions, you can definitely play this. Tom has upgraded almost anything possible, as he does with a lot of the games in the library. So thanks for joining me today. I'm Wendy Yi. Have fun painting.